Port Charlotte MP Dr. Andre Rollins predicted that the equality vote is bound to fail. Protesters blocked the Sydney Portia Bridge over beach access, and MPs finally voted on the 4 constitutional amendment bills. We've got those stories and others. I'm your host, Krishna Virgil, and this is the Tribune's Top 5. Dr. Rollins predicted that the equality referendum is bound to fail. However, when vote day came on Wednesday, he did not vote against any of the bills. Despite previous assertions that the impending referendum would not be successful, Port Charlotte MP Dr. Andre Rollins did not vote against any of the 4 constitutional amendment bills on Wednesday, telling reporters that he did not want to rob his constituents of having their say on the issues. Speaking following the parliamentary vote, Dr. Rollins said while he still had very real concerns regarding Bills 2 and 4, he was of the view that it was not appropriate to undermine democracy because it did not end in the House of Assembly. Meanwhile, Bamboo Town MP Renwood Wells explained that he voted against Bill 4 because he was very sure that it would leave the door open for same-sex marriages. Dr. Rollins said, quote, "My reservations with respect to questions 2 and 4 still stand. I am concerned as a result of the inability of our immigration department to properly secure our borders. I am concerned that there will be, as a result of the passage of Bill 2, a sharp increase in the number of applications for marriages of convenience. I have that very real concern, and I believe that many people in this country and many Bahamians share that view as it relates to question 4. I believe that the bill could have been strengthened to rule out much of the doubt and the concerns that currently exist. However, having said that, I do not believe that for something as important as a constitutional amendment exercise, that I as a member of parliament ought to deny or deprive my constituents of an opportunity to have their voices heard. Democracy has a very important component that also extends to voters being able to go to the ballot box to express their views." End quote. Police are investigating 2 separate shooting incidents that left 2 men dead late on Tuesday night and early on Wednesday morning. The murders took the country's homicide count to 21 for the year, according to the Tribune's records. In the latest incident, Chief Superintendent Clayton Fernandez said police received information around 7 a.m. on Wednesday that shots were heard in the Fox Hill area. He said, quote, "Police responded and went to Dorset Street in Fox Hill, and on arrival, they met the lifeless body of a male lying in the street. He had multiple gunshot wounds to his body. Emergency personnel services were called to the scene and pronounced the victim dead. From our initial investigations, we understand that shots were heard in the area and persons in the neighborhood saw a man lying in the street. At this time, we do not know the motive for the homicide, but officers are on the ground doing our investigations." End quote. Police have identified the victim as 50-year-old Troy Alexander Cash of Dorset Street. In the second incident, police said a man was walking off Fleming Street around 11 p.m. on Tuesday when the occupants of a heavily tinted gray Nissan Altima pulled up and shot him before speeding off in an unknown direction. The victim was rushed to hospital where he died of his injuries shortly after his arrival. The Tribune understands he's 18-year-old Rashad Adam Bodie. Chief Superintendent Fernandez said police do not believe the 2 murders are connected. The Point President and China State Construction Vice President Daniel Liu took a shot at Bahamar's developer Sarkis Ismailian, saying unlike Bahamar, this project will be completed and on time. Mr. Liu said the greatest difference between Bahamar and the Bay Street development is there is no shortage of money to fund construction and it will be completed on time. He suggested that the Point is in a different category from the stalled Bahamar Resort in that it was not some private development that tries to keep the people away from the beach or tries to make it their own territory for their own ego. He said, quote, "This is not something that somebody can hold us up. It will not be," he said during a media reception hosted by The Point to showcase its authentic Chinese cuisine restaurant, Summer Palace, on Wednesday night. CCA and Bahamar have been fighting in court since the latter's developer, Sarkis Ismailian, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy last June. CCA was Bahamar's general contractor. It has also blamed Bahamar for mismanaging $3.5 billion development, suggesting that it was never compensated for or given adequate time to perform more than 1,000 construction change orders. Despite the Prime Minister's assurance that he would personally work to find an alternative solution for vendors who were blocked from their regular access point to Cabbage Beach, more than 100 protesters marched over the Sydney Portia Bridge to Paradise Island and tore down the fence which obstructed the beach path on Tuesday. hours after the Christie administration released a statement through Bahamas Information Services highlighting an agreement made between the government and the property's owner granting temporary access to the beach over private property. Demonstrators angered by the ordeal assembled at the foot of the Sir Sidney Poitier Bridge. Crowds clad in Free National Movement and Democratic National Alliance apparel attempted to protest, but were quickly cautioned by Royal Bahamas Police Force officers stationed at the location. As police attempted to disperse the crowd, FNM leader Dr. Hubert Minnis, DNA leader Granville McCartney, Bahamas Trade Union Congress Secretary General Jennifer Isaacs Dotson, and Bahamas Taxi Cab Union President Philip Watkins led the group over the bridge, all en route to Cabbage Beach. The crowd, now in excess of 100 people, inclusive of vendors, taxicab drivers, activists, politicians, and concerned citizens, were met by another group of officers at Cabbage Beach. Demands to open the gate blocking the beach access quickly escalated to calls for the fence to be taken down altogether. As tensions rose, one protester refusing to come to terms with the access to the easement being granted temporarily shouted, quote, "This fence needs to come down," end quote. Walking over to the fence, he added, "The entire thing needs to be taken down to give freedom to the hardworking Bahamians who depend on this beach to feed their families." That protester then untied the steel binds used to hold the fence in place. He was quickly joined by more demonstrators who began to pull the fence, resulting in the entire thing being pulled down. After a nearly 2-year delay and controversy, the 4 constitutional amendment bills finally came out of the committee phase and onto the House of Assembly floor, where MPs voted to have them passed. In a historic vote on Wednesday, the government's 4 constitutional bills were passed in the House of Assembly. Prime Minister Perry Christie, who spoke following the parliamentary vote on each of the 4 amendments, said it represented this country's continued march towards a common loftier goal to fulfill equality for men and women. The nation's leader said it was abhorrent to the Bahamas' fundamental values that more than 53 years since women won the right to vote, they still do not have the constitutional protection against discrimination based on sex. He said there were just 2 steps remaining toward completing this goal. He was referring to the passage of the bills in the Senate. A referendum is expected to follow. Mr. Christie said the final say was not left up to politicians, but to Bahamians. Responding to the Prime Minister, Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis said unlike the then opposition Progressive Liberal Party in 2002, the FNM would not change its vote when they walked outside of the House. Mr. Christie said, quote, "Mr. Speaker, I think it is important for me to say on this occasion that it is historic and it does represent the continuing march of the Bahamian people towards our common loftier goal with the passage of the 4 constitutional bills in the House of Assembly today. The next step in the constitutional process will be the replication in the Senate of what we accomplished in the House of Assembly today, and then after that, the final and most important part of the process, namely the submission of the bills to the Bahamian people themselves for approval or otherwise is a national referendum. The first bill was passed by all 37 members present in the House of Assembly. Marco City MP Greg Moss voted against Bill 2 and Bill 3 was passed with the full support of the members present in the lower chamber. The 4th bill, which was the most controversial, was passed by a vote of 34 members of Parliament supporting it, 2 voting no and 1 abstaining. Mr. Moss and Bambootown MP Renwood Wells voted against the bill, while Central Grand Bahama MP Nico Grant abstained. St. Anne's MP Hubert Chipman was absent from the vote due to illness. Bill 1 seeks to give a Bahamian woman the same rights as a Bahamian man to pass on citizenship to her unborn child outside of the Bahamas. Bill 2 would give a Bahamian woman the same right as a Bahamian man to pass on citizenship to her foreign husband. Bill 3 would give a Bahamian father the same right as a Bahamian mother to pass on citizenship to his child born out of wedlock provided proof of paternity. The final bill would make it unconstitutional to discriminate on the grounds of sex, meaning being male or female. Want to get in on the discussion? Well, here's how you can. Just log on to our website at www.tribune242.com. Like us on Facebook, the Tribune News Network. Send us a tweet at Tribune242 or subscribe to our YouTube page, Tribune242.